batting cleanup today. Big hitter, our Clerk-Recorder, Registrar of Voters, the Honorable Mark Lunn.
He just seems like it's more departments because he has such a long title, right?
Yes.
Recorder, Registrar of Voters.
Chair Parks, honorable members of the board, Mr. CEO, Mr. Powers, good evening now. I know that I'm the last one on the agenda. I must have made Mike mad. I don't know, but I want to...
We're highlighting you.
Thank you so much. I used to bat second, so fourth is kind of a tough place. For the record, I'm Mark Lunn, the Clerk-Recorder, Registrar of Voters, a long title. And I'm very honored tonight that you have the opportunity, and it's okay that I'm going last to talk about my department. I am going to be speaking a little fast because in about 50 minutes, I'm scheduled to be at an ultrasound for my first grandbaby. And so I'm going to kind of do the best I can to represent my department the best way I can, but please don't get in my way as I pull out of the parking lot tonight on my way home. We have a small department compared to most others in the county, and they're mighty. And most of our employees, when you think about what we do, we're governed by law, not unlike a DMV employee is. But I think to the credit of the staff, when I got here, I'd asked them to, government has a tendency to say no. I've asked them to try to seek yes. We're the ones with the power. They can't shop anywhere else for what we do. So please try to treat all of our customers with dignity and respect. And to my credit, we've had a consistent 99+% approval rating for the services that we provide. Thank you for moving that slide. The functions here, most of you are familiar with them: birth, death, and marriage. Those are what we call vital records, and we do marriages here, and I'll talk about that in a minute, all the way down to election administration. But I want to move up that right column a little bit to the certificate of aliveness. How many of you think that you qualify for that today? Because probably it's been a long day. I know that I do. So anybody know what that is? Certificate of aliveness is something that we prepare for people that have worked in another country, come here, and they're receiving a pension. And so the people that are giving them the pension wants to make sure that they're alive. So that's something that we do here, which is probably out of the ordinary for what you would think. And I know we have a horse person here on the board. Docked horse registrations, what the heck does a clerk have to do with that? Anybody know what that is? All right, docked horse registration, what they are is when they're required by the penal code if they're going to trim or cut off the tail of a horse, normally a working horse, one that pulls a carriage or something where the tail would get in the way of the functions that they perform. They're required to register with us, and the county clerk maintains those records. And then the other things that we do is the unlawful detainer and legal document servers. They file and register with us, and professional photocopiers, which is something that you might not know that we do. Next slide, please. This is our team. This is our entire management team, and you can see by a couple of photos that they've taken the Hollywood approach and used photos that are 20. No, I'm teasing. And then there's something I'm going to talk about a little bit is we have a vacant fiscal and human resources position. I'm very sorry to see her go. But I'm happy for her because she got a promotion, and Sean Otten was a very good thief, and the healthcare agency is a benefactor of her efforts. That's Christina Onius. Most importantly, what's happened to the department this year, and I'm very happy to say that we all know the long-serving clerk-recorder, which is Jim Becker. Jim retired last year, and I was so lucky to be able to convince Michelle Ascension from the great city of Oxnard, our largest city. She's an elected city clerk. She joined our staff at the beginning of this year, and I'm so lucky that she did. And most importantly, our people here will be lucky as she provides leadership with me in the years to come. Next slide, please. The department has, as it says, 62 FTEs. Most of them are upstairs, small group in elections, There's probably 4 or 5 additional temporary positions that are in elections around the clock to help us maintain operations. Most importantly, we hire a bunch of people every time an election comes around. And we'll talk about some elections coming up here, but our 19-person staff grows to about 100 as we approach an election day. And then on the outside, depending on what type of election that we're doing, we hire an additional 650 to 1,800 people to help us do democracy here in Ventura County. Next slide, please. This diversity and inclusion, we're very proud of it. Just quickly, 74% of my department are people of color. 74% are females in the department, and the leadership that you see there under the diverse leadership, I think we're pretty well balanced. We have hired a lot of people here, and we've gotten some absolute rock stars, and I guess I maintain the sole white male person in my department. But other than that, I think we're doing pretty well in terms of diversity and inclusion. Next slide, please. There's a story behind preserving history and protecting democracy, which you have undoubtedly seen being across from your hearing room. When I first got here, I was looking for something to be able to communicate to the employees and the public what it is that my office does. And about the third day I'm here and I was able to find my way into the office, not get lost, I thought, what is it that we do? And somehow this preserving history and protecting democracy came out. I should have trademarked it because it's been copied ever since, but it's a perfect description of what I believe the office is. And in addition to that, for those of you that remember, we had a big wall in front of our offices. You couldn't see in. So that meant that the public couldn't really see the good work that was doing, and the employees on the other side weren't allowed to show the good work that they're doing to the public that they serve. So we took that wall down, we instituted that motto, and I think our folks are doing a great job with it. So that's how that came about. And as a result of that, you might see on that slide, that's a birth certificate up on Wikipedia. And I'm long serving on the board of directors for the clerks and elections officials, but we've instituted a lot of security protocols because birth, death, and marriage certificates are feeder forms for identity theft. And so we've made it to Wikipedia. That's our County of Ventura birth certificate there. Next slide, please. The things that are important here that I think on these slides, we had to significantly modify our business model here when COVID hit, just like everybody else had to do. And in fact, we were in the midst of preparing for an election when that happened. We weren't closed one day here for the pandemic. We continued to operate. The good wisdom of the CEO and Sean Otten, when they came down and said, you got to close the facility down, I said, well, we got an election. We can't stop that. And if we stop recording documents, you're going to hear from all kinds of entities on the outside. So Ventura County continued to do business, and a bunch of other counties got in some serious hot water with some of the business entities on the outside. So we're proud of that. One of the things that we've learned, you can see up on the left-hand side of your screen there, we kind of joke about it a little bit, that our employees, those look like shower curtains, and probably indeed they are, but what we're clean employees here. And what that helped us do, we got hit with COVID on individual basis, but we didn't have it sweep through the offices because of the attention that we paid to social distancing and cleaning and wearing the mask, and all those things happen at a time that everybody was getting hit with this thing. So they worked really hard, and the credit goes to the employees and their desire to come to work, and the fact that they followed social distancing and all the protocols put in place, and we stayed healthy and conducted an election at the same time. Next slide, please. I present that slide for you to read. We have instituted, since COVID hit, We have become more productive as an agency. We found alternative ways to work. We went to an appointment-based system. We were the first agency in the HOA to bring people, the public, in and out. We did that for marriage, to do marriage licenses. Life has to go on. We didn't do ceremonies anymore because of the social distancing, but people do need to get married. They need to plan their life, and people in the military, a big employer here, they're a big demand for our services. So that's some of the things. If anybody needs a wedding ring, by the way, they're currently $9, and they're silver. They're going to go up next month to $10. So get them while you can. Next slide, please. The wedding. We do a lot of weddings here. We're proud of our weddings. We obviously haven't done anything since COVID, but when we did, we did about 2,500 ceremonies a year here, 5,000 licenses that we issue here a year. One of the unique things about Ventura County, unlike some of our counterparts, is if you want to get married, and you can go to any county clerk's office in the state to get a license, you get married anywhere with a license. One of the unique things here is that you can get your license, get married, and get your certified copy of your license, which is unlike some of the folks that surround us. We're real proud of that. Next slide, please. In 2013, we were a first mover out into East County. We did a pilot project in East County where we partnered with the clerk's office, and we had a little counter space. We co-located with the clerk just to see if our services would be welcome and it would serve the public in a better manner by going out there. And indeed it did. We rapidly outgrew that. And in 2016, we opened up a bigger office in Supervisor Parks. I want to thank you again for being there that day and showing your support when we opened the office up. It's been a huge success. We do a lot of business out there. And when we get to open up again, I'm sure that the folks from Los Angeles County will be very happy that they can come over and get their licenses and get married here. It's been a great hit for us there, and we're very thankful to the city of Thousand Oaks for allowing us a space. They had a credit union to move out, and the clerk's office moved in right behind them. Next slide, please. I'm going to go through this very quickly. I want to thank Mike Powers and all the fiscal team. This is a snapshot of what our budget, I know it's not been approved yet, kind of looks like now. The thing that's most likely to change is going to be the elections portion of this. And that always changes. And that's one point that I have to make, that with Kay and her crew and Robert and Tina and everybody working with us through all the things, elections is a crazy business. I'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. They were partners with us side by side to make sure that we got the funding that we needed in spite of the daily change coming from the governor's office, the Secretary of State's office, and all the stuff that was going on nationally around the election. So they've been good partners for us. We've been good stewards of the money, and we appreciate their thoughtfulness in helping us get through what we need to get through. Next slide, please. One of the things that might not be known is documentary transfer tax. When an entity sells to another entity and there's in the intellectual property transfers, there's a tax that's due. And if you look at the numbers here, so we go back to fiscal year 10 and 11 when I showed up on the scene, we've collected about $91 million. 51 million of that has gone to the county. Another 40,000 has gone out to our city partners. So that's something that we take very seriously and concentrate on very hard with the assessor's office to help us get this documentary transfer tax into our coffers. Next slide, please. Eric mentioned this earlier. We were early adopters of the real estate fraud issue here in Ventura County. Being from prior law enforcement is something important for us. We partner with the district attorney's office. We send notices out anytime a deed changes, so they don't have to go out and buy a service. We send notices out when a deed changes to make sure that indeed the deed should be changing, and that's been recorded in our office. And that is, this slide indicates the amount of money that we've collected since fiscal year 10-11. Well, that's quite a sizable amount. Next slide, please. SB 2, that was a very controversial piece of legislation that basically added another $75 to a recording so we could provide for low-income housing up and down the state. We collect those funds, and you can see by the numbers there that we've sent a lot of money to the state and collected a lot of money with our recordings. Our recordings are up. They'll continue to be up as long as interest rates stay down. That's a big question mark in the future, but that slide shows what we've collected there, SB2. Next slide, please. Those of you that have been following, in 2012, we implemented an online voter registration system, been hugely successful. 2017, the conditional voter registration program. In essence, what that means is you can show up on election day, register to vote, and vote. That's also been very successful. In 2017, the state took over the county's voter registration system. It's all run by Sacramento now. We write to it, but that's a big change for us there. And yes, there were some growing pains along the way. In 2019, your board supported purchase of new equipment as we look towards the future. Our old equipment was purchased in 2005. It started to be used in 2006, and that stuff grows old fast with the amount that we use it. And your board has provided us that equipment to be forward-looking, and we appreciate that. And in 2020, last year, November, we conducted our first election using that equipment in November of last year. Very helpful. It was on a vote center, what we call light model, and more to come on that in just a second. Next slide, please. We are very proud in the election division. You take a look at 506,000 registered voters and the population of the county and the people that are eligible to vote. We are on the very high side of counties in California for folks that are registered to vote. And we're proud of that, and we'll continue to push from our end to try to get people and make things easy for people that want to register to vote here in California. Interesting note, 75% of the people in our county are permanent vote-by-mail voters. That's the way they prefer to vote. The new voting system, the Voter Choice Act, everybody gets a vote-by-mail ballot, and then there's vote centers placed throughout the county based on a mathematical formula, based on voter registration. But 75% of our people here in the county want a permanent vote-by-mail ballot when it comes to election time. And what we've been hit with recently, and you all know as we follow the news, local and state, that we've just completed about 170,000 of signature verifications to go to various state and local petitions. November 3rd, next slide, please. Presidential election. At that time, we had 500,000 registered voters. Our voter turnout was historical. We've had several historical turnouts, 85.9%. We had 48 in-person voting locations in spite of COVID and the pandemic. We had 34 drop boxes, and people absolutely love dropping their ballot there rather than putting it in the mailbox, even though the postage is free to them, but they felt it was more secure. They love those drop boxes. We're going to continue to use them in the future. And the interesting statistic here is the second one from the end. 10% of the people voted in person. That's pretty interesting. There's people are voting different ways these days. And what probably caused Sean Otten to take our fiscal and HR person was the fact that we hired, with our small little crew, with the help of Sean's group, 650 people to help us with that election, and it went by very well. And we, unlike some of our neighboring counties, we had very few issues that we had to deal with. Next slide, please. I got a lot of thank yous to talk about in terms of the partnerships. You see them all there. GSA took care of our facilities and the campus security. The sheriff cut a training video and trained local law enforcement. I participated in that in regards to violations of the election code, voter fraud, voter intimidation, those sorts of things. Fire department stepped up at the last minute to give us drop boxes for ballots. That was a huge help. I mentioned this before, the CEO and the budget folks, how they came alongside of us with all those changes and all those things that we couldn't predict and or control, and we were able to get it done. HR helped us to hire those 650 people. The auditor controller, they helped us process all of that. And IT, this is a huge IT effort on their part to get that election done, and they came alongside of us as our partners as well. So this is our next slide, COVID-19 response. We will continue after we open the building up to do our appointments on an appointment basis only at the beginning, because our business model has made us more effective. People can come in a safe manner. They can conduct their business without having to stand in a line. They know how long it's going to take them to do their business, and they'll be on their way. So we're going to try to continue what we learned from COVID in the months to follow. And all this time, as you can see in the last bullet, 15% of our staff served as DSWs as well. Next slide, please. Transition to the Voter Choice Act. We now have a new Secretary of State. Alex Padilla is now a United States Senator. We were on the road to be fast-tracked into the Voter Choice Act. The Secretary of State now is not fast-tracking, so we're unsure at this point when we will actually join that model. I know we'll not be here for, if we have a recall election for the governor, we'll not be here for the Oxnard election. We're trying to work on it for next year. About 40% of our election staff is taking advantage of better paying opportunities and have transferred to other county agencies. So we have a little hole down there for folks to be able to complete staff work, and then there's a lot of staff work that involves moving to that Voter Choice Act in terms of reporting. And the rest is there for you. We have the Oxnard City Council replacement for the seat from the Honorable Carmen Ramirez. That takes place on November 2nd. Governor recall, the best I can tell you on that, we're hearing from the Secretary of State it'll be at the end of November or the early part of December, and that was as of last week. And of course, then we move into the gubernatorial primary of June 7th, 2022. There is some late breaking word on that there may be a change in that, also pushing that election later. And of course, we're going to be doing redistricting this year as well, in case we didn't have anything to think about between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning. We've got redistricting to do, and you heard a lot about that this morning. We are going to be implementing a new land system here in the recorder's office. Last time was 2006. It's outdated. It's slow to serve our customers. We're going to be changing that this year. And your guess is as good as mine as to what's going to happen in terms of the real estate market. As long as the rates stay low, our business will be good, but who knows other than that. And with that, I've completed a very hasty presentation, and I'm available for questions.
We call that efficient, very efficient, good summary. Personal thank you for giving me all the props I needed so I could marry my son to his fiance. So thank you for that. That was really nice to be able to do. And interesting, lots of dynamics that can affect your budget, as I see, right? When you're talking about the gubernatorial primary, you believe that is going to be put off longer than when anticipated in June? Because that would also affect the like the Board of Supervisor elections too, which are also done in the primary.
Yes, and you know, you're probably aware of some legislation that is in right now in Sacramento to actually change all the county officers, not the boards, but all the county officers, the sheriff and the 5 others of us, to go to the presidential cycle for elections. All of the registrars up and down the state said, hey, wait a minute, the hardest election that we can conduct is a presidential election. We don't, and then to run for office, that's probably not a good thing for all of us. I don't know what's going to happen with that. And I don't know if they're going to move that thing in June, but they're talking about it. So whether it'll happen or not, Secretary of State didn't have any answers. That pushes back the election calendar for the rest of the year. So stay tuned is the best I could say on that.
Thank you. So we have lots of questions for you. Supervisor LeVere.
No questions. I know he has an important doctor's appointment to get to, but you and your team do so much and you do it so well. But I kind of want to focus on the elections. You see the news across the country about the different issues with elections offices, and it's just so comforting knowing that we have such a professional team running our elections, and it's just exceptional. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Thanks, Supervisor. Appreciate it.
And Supervisor Ramirez.
I also do not have any questions and just want to congratulate our clerk for having had the wisdom to steal Michelle Ascension, who was phenomenal during my time at council. She only served one term, but I always told her she should get combat pay because she had to deal with a lot of different things. So she's a terrific choice. I do want to also thank you for running the office in such a neutral way that we can all feel very confident in the services of the office. And thanks for providing wedding rings. I think that is so sweet. I don't know if anybody else does it. I feel like going down there and getting a couple extra myself.
Me
so
too.
I like my wedding ring. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Supervisor Lunn.
Thank you so much. Mark, I'm really intrigued by the 75% mail-in ballots. Is that the highest that our county has done?
Yes, it is. People are loving them. And I think what we'll see, Supervisor, in the future, when they see how easy it is to vote, when you can vote in your jammies, we mailed the vote by mail ballot to everybody last election on governor's orders. They thought it was pretty cool. That's why we had such a great turnout.
I just think it's great to get that much public engagement on such important elections, and for your team to be able to check all of those, make sure they're valid and everything is a very big feat. And I wanted to say thank you so much. I've been working with your department since I think 2011, and just have seen some great things coming out of your office, and appreciate preserving history. That's extremely important these days, all the time, just to be able to have those records, especially when we need it most. We know who to go to. So thank you so much for just always following up with everything and making sure that we're as cutting edge as possible so that we can really do the good work. Thank you. And good luck on the ultrasound.
If you've been to his office lately in the elections division, you have a wall of all these photographs of people who served in your position or the equivalent of it. And it really shows you, the age of our county and how we have progressed. But the fact that you need to record if you cut a tail of, the horse's tail, I mean, that to me has to go back to, the 1800s. And it might be something that we might want to change, not that you probably have a lot of those.
We don't.
Mr. Powers.
Thank you. I don't have a transition for that, but
as long as it doesn't have tail or something
I'm not
like
leaving, but I just want to say, as you can tell, there's a lot of moving parts in the elections, right? And it's so much of it said, such an efficient operation, his staff, his team, first rate, good stewards. And I don't want that to go by too quickly. That makes such a difference. When Mark and his team say because they're such good stewards, when they say they need funding for things, we know they need it. And that enables us to move quickly. They've got that credibility, like all of our elected department heads do. And it helps us move quickly because you can see how much is happening. The partnership slide you had, that was great, but it's a two-way street. You're a great partner with us. You can see that in the DSWs, 15% of your staff. That's amazing. And they were throughout all of our different locations. So thank you, Mark, and your team. And just to be clear, too, anytime you pull out of your parking space, we all jump out of the way. So not just congratulations, Grandpa.
Yeah, that is very exciting.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry for the abbreviated presentation, but
It's good.
Other things matter, right?
Yes. So glad to also have you out in the East County in the Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza. You kind of started the trend. We have, the tax collector out there now too, and it's great to go out to the community and bring the services to them.
Well, you've been very supportive, and I really appreciate that.
All right. Thank you for it, and good luck. And
I'm exiting stage left now. Thank you very, very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, I think that's it. That's it for our budget presentations. Should be enough for today.
Yes, I think it should be.
Yes, thank you, board members, and for all that time. I know it's a lot, but it's really important.